So it says it's about the last lecture. In the last lecture, taqwa kamil or taqwa al-kamil was interpreted as fulfilling all the wajibat and abstaining from all the muharramat. In this, is this Imam Khomeini's interpretation of the term? Are are there any other meanings? For example, could taqwa al-kamil go beyond known obligations and prohibitions of fiqh?
Yeah. Yes. When we say taqwa kamil, not that this is the maximum taqwa. We meant inclusive taqwa, in the sense that you would not allow exceptions and you do all your wajibat and refrain from all muharramat all the time, constantly. This is taqwa kamil. Of course, this is one level of taqwa. When you establish this, then you do more mustahabbat, avoid makruhat, then you go further and you try to do even mubahat for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even sleeping, talking, drinking, walking, anything for the sake of Allah. These are different stages, but what is important is that we don't fail some of the wajibat and do some mustahabbat. Of course, I'm not saying if I fail some wajibat, I must stop mustahabbat. No, I'm saying that make sure that you don't fail in performing wajibat, but do mustahabbat. But not that if you have to choose between mustahab and wajib, you choose mustahab.
Thank you very much, Shahan.
You're welcome.
The next question is a general question. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Shuman.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. What a good question.
It has been mentioned in your lectures about the soul.
Yes.
About the heart, about the soul and about the soul and heart's capacity of Prophet Muhammad, about the capacity of the soul and the heart of Prophet Muhammad to receive the Quran, whereas the heavens and the earth and the mountains refuse to bear it. I think there's a few ideas that are in this first part. Is this solely an indication of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's capacity, or does it also speak to the capacity of his followers to be recipients of the Quran? Are the souls of the sincere believers of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's ummah different from the souls of previous prophets and messengers?
Of course, true followers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they have also capacity greater than mountains and earth and sky. So we can also learn things that they cannot learn. But if the question is about comparing followers of the Prophet with previous nations, then we can say it is possible for followers of the Prophet to reach higher levels that previous nations didn't reach. But not for every person, because there are individuals in those nations that they are very high. But for us, it's possible. Maybe we don't manage to, precede them. But it's possible, and maybe some of our ulama have actually preceded them. Maybe some of our ulama or some of the companions of the imams, they don't have any counterpart in previous nations. But this is not true about every member of this nation.
Thank you, Sheikh.
You're welcome.
There's a follow-up question here from Sayyid Firdaus Rizvi.
Sorry, if I may add something.
Yes, of course.
I have an idea, but this idea is not yet 100% proved. Okay? So this is my idea, but I'm not saying it's proved for me. But I am thinking and trying to develop it. And I have some evidence, but still it's not 100%. I believe that every book is raising the bar of perfection for the followers of that book. So those who followed Musa alayhi salam, they were acting according to Torah, which is fiha hudan wa nur. But by following Torah, you can reach certain level. Those who follow Injil, they can reach higher. In the same way that Jesus was higher than Moses. It seems that followers of Injil can be higher than followers of Torah. And with the Quran, the standard is raised to the extent that we can say there is no limit. My idea is, my humble opinion is, I'm not saying it's proof, but I believe and I can argue for it, that with the Quran, or under the guidance that we receive from the Quran, there is no limit for progress. And our prophet that was given the Quran is the example of this. The prophet to whom the Quran is given is different in level from the prophet to whom Injil is given. And the prophet to whom Injil is given is different to one to whom Torah is given. The Quran not only is the highest, but is the last, in the sense that we don't need anything to allow humanity to grow more or to flourish more. Just we need to utilize the Quran. This is my understanding.
Thank you, Shaykhna.
You're welcome.
Is one of the reasons for this that there was a need for a subsequent book, whereas there was no need for a subsequent book after the Quran?
This is one evidence, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Shaykhna. This opens the appetite for even more learning.
Inshallah.
Since you said that this is something that you're developing, we just follow, inshallah.
Inshallah.
The next question here is Assalamu alaikum again, Sheikh Shumali.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
This is a place of, this webinar has to have we call it a seminar because it's closer to salam, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So, could you provide some insight on the characteristics of time and how each person may experience the same reality differently? If we took 20 minutes as an example, for one person who takes an afternoon nap, those 20 minutes may feel like hours. Another person who has been...
Hours or seconds?
Well, I guess it's relative. Another person who has been in an accident and waiting for the ambulance to show up, that time may feel like days. For another person who has to finish an urgent task, those 20 minutes may feel like 5 minutes.
Yes.
Does time have its own separate reality, or does time react to a person's mental frame of mind?
Both. Certainly 5 minutes and 5 hours are different. Certainly. But our experience of time is also different. Depending on your, for example, mindset. How busy you are, how appreciative of the time you are, how difficult or good is the situation, you can experience it differently. Plus, it seems to me that for some people, their time is expanded in the sense that, in this sense, not that their 1 hour it becomes 10 hours if you look at the watch. No, it's 1 hour, 60 minutes. But their time is so blessed that in 1 hour what they can do, another person can do in 10 hours. This is possible. Or some people can go beyond time. So they can see future, they can see past. So time is a framework, but whether you are going to be confined to this framework or you are going to expand it and widen it, it's up to you.
And the last question is from Sayyid Firdaus.
The same is with, a space. We have this concept of tayyul arz. What is tayyul arz? Means that some people, they can shorten the distance. So if, for example, a human being can walk in a day, I don't know, 10, 15 kilometers if you just walk, and if you don't run, 15, 20 kilometers, I don't know. For them, in few seconds, they can travel hundreds of kilometers. Why? Because they have managed to shorten the space. This is possible because human soul can go beyond the space and beyond the time. There is average, and that is what we all follow. But they can be much more faster. If you remember in some discussions in philosophy, I have explained that I believe we have two types of life. One is the normal life that we measure by how much time is passing for our body. We say this person is 8 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old. This is the time that is passing for the body and shows average growth of the soul based on that growth of the body. But I believe that soul has its own life, and there is no need that soul needs to take 10, 15 years to become mature. In most of people it takes that long, but in some people the soul can reach maturity just when they are infant, when they are born. Or body at the end goes into decline. وَمَنْ نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَكِّسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ. It's about body. But I believe that human soul can remain young. Some souls become old, but some souls remain always young. And therefore, when they go to heaven, they don't need to be made young. The soul is already young. And in heaven, we don't have old people. Because we have old bodies, but the soul is young. And in the soul, in the heaven, body follows the soul. So if the soul is young, body becomes young. So time and space are two important factors, but they are more determining the situation for body. And soul, as long as it is relying on body, would be affected. But if the soul is growing and freeing herself from the dependence on body, can take time and space into her control. Allahumma salli ala.
There's a question here on the live chat from Sayyid Firdaus Rizvi. Tafweed is by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a miracle, is it a form of tafweed? Is a miracle a form of tafweed?
We can say, but this is the right kind of tafweed. It's not like tafweed of Mu'tazilites. Because even in miracles, Allah is still involved. Miracles, karamat, miracle of Jesus, I mentioned the example, for example, of reviving. This is, yes, tafweed, but in the right sense. Means still Allah is involved.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.